Hello and welcome to the first unit of Data Analysis and Statistical Inference, Introduction to Data. This unit will introduce you to the basics of collecting, analyzing, and visualizing data, as well as to making database decisions. Let's start with a historical look at data as evidence. In the United States, anti-smoking research started in the 1930s when cigarette smoking became increasingly popular. While some smokers seemed to be sensitive to cigarette smoke, others were completely unaffected. Anti-smoking research was faced with resistance based on claims like, "My uncle smokes 3 packs a day and he's in perfectly good health." Such evidence, while may be real, is based on a limited sample size that might not be representative of the population. We call such evidence anecdotal evidence. At the time, it was concluded that smoking is a complex human behavior, by its nature difficult to study, confounded by human variability. However, today, our understanding of the health effects of smoking is much different. In time, researchers were able to examine larger samples of cases, in other words, more smokers, and with data collected from larger samples over time, trends showing the negative health impacts of smoking became much clearer. The goal of this course is to teach you to make sense of data using statistical tools in order to be able to explore relationships between variables and make informed decisions. Throughout the course, you will be introduced to numerous studies, and when faced with a new study or dataset, the first question you should always ask yourself is, what is the population of interest and what is the sample? For example, a study published in 2013 titled Alcohol Brand Use and Injury in the Emergency Department explored the research question, are consumers of certain alcohol brands more likely to end up in the emergency room with injuries? Based on this question, the population of interest is everyone. Ideally, the researchers would like to find an answer to this question that can result in a recommendation for everyone who consumes alcohol. However, a closer look at the study reveals that the sample used in this study is a group of emergency room patients at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore in the U.S. These patients visited the hospital with an injury, and alcohol brand consumption data were collected from patients who drank within 6 hours of presentation at the hospital. Therefore, the results of this study can really only be generalized to residents of Baltimore, since certain brands may be more easily available in this area than others due to national brand market share. Similarly, there may be trends in alcohol consumption habits of people who live in this area versus everywhere else in the world. Now that you're a little more familiar with how to approach statistical studies, let's give a brief overview of what's to come in this unit. We will start by defining populations of interest, discuss methods of taking samples from this population, and designing studies that can best answer particular research questions. We will also learn to identify the scope of the inference for a study, such as when we can make causal versus correlational statements, and when we can generalize our conclusions to the population at large. We will also learn methods of exploratory data analysis, such as visualization and summary statistics, and we will wrap up the unit with a light simulation-based introduction to statistical inference.